Hey, my name's Ben Hollingsworth from Netflix's Virgin River. I'm here with Elias in the Man Cave Chronicles. Check us out.
Welcome to another episode of the Man Cave Chronicles.
Welcome to the party, pal!
You're my boy, Blue!
Yo, Adrian!
A podcast with interviews of amazing guests from the world of pop culture.
Oh, yeah!
TV.
Nice!
Movies.
Oh, I love the movies!
Comedy and more. From deep inside the Man Cave, your host, Elias.
Benjamin, welcome to the cave.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you, man? What's new with you?
Surviving like everyone else, or trying to anyway. Got a new daughter born a couple months ago. So
I
new
saw
baby
that.
in the
Congrats. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
How's fatherhood treating you? I know you got 2 other kids, correct?
Yeah, I do. So this is number 3, which if you asked me 6-7 years ago, hey, in 2020 you're gonna have 3 kids, I'd be like, what? But it's a blessing. It really is, and it sure as hell keeps me busy.
Oh yeah, I have two kids myself, so it's very busy.
Right. So
Yeah.
How old are your kids?
My daughter is 5, but she acts like she's 10, and
Yeah,
my son is 3.
Oh, great. So you're in it too, huh? Your
Yeah.
toddler craziness. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it doesn't stop. A lot of energy.
No. Right. And in the pandemic of anything, like I feel like there's a badge of honor for parents of toddlers at this during this time. It's just like a whole new level, isn't it?
Oh yeah. How many times have you just decided, you know what, I'm gonna go for a walk just to get out of the house for
yeah.
a little bit?
There's been a lot of walks. Honey, I'm going for a walk. You got the kids, right?
So, congrats, by the way. I heard season 3 just got picked up.
It did, yes. Thank you very much. We're very happy about that.
So you've been busy. Like the listeners, you've been on multiple projects. People know you from Code Black, Suits, and of course Netflix, Virgin River. So you've been busy for many years.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to string together a nice run here for the last decade or so. So, and to be a part of some great projects, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. Let's get to know a little bit more about you. Where are you originally from?
I'm originally, so I'm Canadian, and I'm originally from a small town just outside Toronto called Peterborough, Ontario, home of a number of NHL hockey players, big hockey town, Irish Catholic kind of hockey town in Canada. And so grew up in a small town there.
Do you still live in Canada?
You know what? My wife and I and family, we split our time between LA and Vancouver, which is great because the Virgin River shoots up here in Vancouver. And so we get, when the rain and cold weather gets too much, we head down to our home in LA and business down there and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then when we're sick of the LA type of dealing with the people and billboards and all of that business, we come and hibernate up here in Canada and get away from it all.
So do you miss the winters or what?
I don't miss from the East Coast. Like you go outside, your eyelashes freeze together cold.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, I do enjoy that like cold, crisp air. On the hockey rink, the outdoor pond, that kind of thing. There's something about that that's pretty nice, especially this time of year.
Yeah, definitely. I'm from the East Coast. That's why I had to ask about the winter. I'm from Massachusetts.
Right.
So we just got hit with the storm yesterday. It was crazy.
Did you? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And this time of year, it's bearable. In fact, it's actually kind of nice, right? It's just, you get to February, late February and March, and you get hit with these, snowstorms and the hail and the worst part for me was always those months in like March, April, where like all the grass was yellow and all the salt that they used to salt the roads in the snowbanks had just melted down enough so it just looked like someone had taken dirt and threw it all over the snow. Those aren't the things I miss. I don't miss that.
So at what age you kind of had an idea you wanted to get into the industry?
Oh man, I think there's several stages, kind of like a string of things. I think when I was younger, I was into it. My dad, who didn't do it professionally, he grew up and did it in like high school and community theater. He was still doing it community theater when I was younger, and so I got to watch him on stage, and I thought that was pretty cool. And I saw a production of Shakespeare's King Henry, and the sword fighting and the like um, just the way that actors could captivate an audience kind of resonated with me, and then of course watching movies growing up and seeing like the classics as well as like, you know, I grew up with the 90s, so there's big box office, you know, Independence Day, like Die Hard, all those classic, you know, big budget, big action movies. I was like, oh man, that is so cool. I want to do that. And then, you know, in my teens, when I kind of got serious and was like, okay, the guidance counselor sits you down and goes, you know, what do you want to do? I did pretty well in school. I was into student council and was a VP of student council, and aside from math, did pretty well in just about everything. So accounting was out the window, but everything else was open. But you know, I loved acting, and I looked at it, and I was playing hockey too at the time, pretty competitively, and I had to make a decision. You know, if I was going to pursue that or pursue acting or get serious about, you know, getting a degree. And I was touring a play at the time, and just everyone kept coming up to me and going like, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you know. And that just reaffirmed, you know, my love and what I really wanted to do. So yeah, I got into a school that is the same creators of Juilliard at the same time. It's a really prestigious school in Canada. They have like 3,000 applicants worldwide, and then they make you go through 3 different audition phases, and then they take 12 actors to train. Wow. So yeah, so that was pretty phenomenal that I got into that, and yeah, that kind of paved the way for me.
Yeah. So when you sat down, I gotta know, like when you sat down with your family and like, okay, I decided this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to school for this. I gotta know, like, what was the reaction from like your parents?
I gotta say it was they were pretty responsive. You know, they listened to me, and they said, you know, my dad, he actually said to me, he's like, you know, it's great that you want to do this, but you're not going to fly down to LA tomorrow and do it. You like, just because you can jump high and, you know, run really fast and you're tall doesn't make you a good basketball player. You got to learn the game, you know, and you got to figure out, you know, you got to make yourself better than everyone else, and just, you know, you can't rely on good looks and talent. It's got to actually be more than that. You got to learn the craft of it. And so I did, and I went to school, and it was seriously the best decision I ever made. Yeah.
So would you, after you finished that, what was your next step? What'd you do? Did you jump right to LA? Just stick around in Canada at first?
Well, yeah, because the theater program was primarily based on like theater and acting for stage. I needed to start to learn the craft of acting for film and television, which is a whole different beast. It's a different muscle, really. Yeah. And so that took some adjustment, and the best way for me, I thought, was just, you know, immersion and getting in and doing guest stars and stuff like that. So I had moved to Toronto, lived in a townhouse downtown Toronto with 3 other actors. We had Nina Dobrev, who's was on the Vampire. She was the lead of the Vampire Diaries, and she's done a number of stuff now. She's a pretty famous actress. She was living in our basement, and I was living upstairs in the the top room, and a lot of us had a lot of fun during that time. But we all stuck together. You know, we ran auditions together. We went through the ups and downs of it. Nina and I ended up booking pilots at the same time, the same year. The first year we went down to LA, which was in 2009, which was really cool on the same network. Hers went on to be a huge successful hit, and mine was canceled after 2 episodes. But different experience. I was shooting in New York. I remember at the time I was living in Nolita in Manhattan on Mulberry Street. And, I'd drive, I'd be driven to work, and we're shooting at Kaufman Studios over in Queens. And I'd be driven to work and drive by like a 65-foot tall billboard of myself. And then the next day, literally in the middle of shooting episode 7, they pulled the plug on it. And I remember driving back and actually seeing the guy taking the billboard down. So that's the beast. That's what you sign up for. But that was a good learning experience. 23, 24.
When you were living like with fellow actors and actresses, did it ever feel like you were competing with them also at the same time?
Maybe. I mean, on a subconscious level, there's a little bit of that where you're like, oh, like they're doing so well, or they're booking this and I'm not. But also on the flip side of that is you're just there to support each other too, and you do want the other person to do well. And a lot of the time, the stuff that they're going in for, you're not right for, and so you kind of understand that. You hear Matt and Ben Affleck, Matt Damon talk about how when they were, young and starting out, and like they'd go out for the same stuff, but they were still supporting each other. Like they still run lines together. And that's always been the sense in the community of acting. Sure, there's this competitive side. You always want to be the best and the most successful. But the same part, you really are there for someone else because, at the end of the day, we're all each other's God. No one else really understands the day-to-day grind of it, like a fellow actor. I mean, there's so much rejection in the business that even the most famous people usually go through, that you got to cope with. And at the end of the day, a lot of those people are your friends, your fellow actors, people that are slugging it out every day with you.
Yeah. So you mentioned you had that for a pilot, but you also had, you had a few small TV roles before you started getting the bigger roles. Like, what were some of your favorite roles?
Oh man. Well, I love Suits. Was a lot of fun. I had this douchebag character that he named Kyle Durant, and he kind of got to give Mike Ross, the lead character, a lot of grief early on, and it's just a fun show. To be a part of the first season of it, I remember watching it. I'd shot 2 episodes of it, and then I was watching the first season, and I remember being like, "Oh wow, this show is actually really good," because you never know when you're shooting it, what the final thing's going to look like. You do your scenes and you work with the people, but until you see it all kind of glued together, you don't really know. And TV can sometimes be that fragmented, a little bit different on a film because there's like a start, middle, and end, and you're all kind of in it together. But TV can be so fragmented with people coming and going, and unless you're one of the main series cast who have been there from the start and through, you don't really. It's hard to pick up on the tone right away. So yeah, I had a lot of fun on Suits, and CSI Miami was a lot of fun. Just coming into the machine that was CSI Miami. And David and everyone, just like watching him do his thing and being like, oh, okay, this is how you do this and this is how you do that, and it had been up for like 13, I don't know how many years they ended up. That was like one of the last years coming onto it, so they'd already done so many. And there's, it's kind of like one of those shows that every actor who goes to LA kind of before you like can make it in LA, you need to do at least one episode of. Yeah, and so that was like a check mark, and for me too, like one of my first roles in Canada when I was starting just fresh out of theater school was Degrassi. It's actually how I met Nina Dobrev. And that show too is the same thing. If you're going to be a successful Canadian actor, you got to go through this Degrassi phase of paying your dues on the show. I mean, Degrassi produced Drake, and I remember Aubrey. Yeah, his name's Aubrey, and he'd be rapping in the halls, and I was like, "Who's this kid? He's pretty good. He's really stringing together." And then I remember, like, it was a year later, I was in Atlanta, Georgia, shooting a movie with Demi Moore and David Duchovny, and it was my first big, U.S. break. I was shooting. Amber Heard played my sister, David Duchovny played my dad, and Demi Moore played my mom. And I was on the way. I was following Demi on my way to see my first NFL game in person, and we were going to Atlanta Falcons game, and it was against the Bills, and I remember just the song came on. You can have whatever. What was that song? You can have whatever you like. That I'm a horrible singer, but that song.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is Aubrey. This is crazy. Drake's like really sticking. I'm in Atlanta, and this song comes on, and it's a vivid memory for me because I when I got to the game, Demi, I was taking me to the game. She, we pull up and there's a private VIP entrance, and the owner of the Atlanta Falcons comes down and greets me, and he walks us out into the field, and he's like, I figured you want to watch the first part of the game down here. And I'm like, well, where are the seats? He's like, no, right here, on the sidelines, like on the field. Yeah. And I was like, well, this is a hell of a way to start my first NFL game experience. And the cheerleaders are there, and I'm grabbing a picture. I'm just a total newbie, grabbing photos with the cheerleaders, and when the football comes, and it was like an incomplete pass, and it lands at my feet, and the owner kind of looks at me, and the ref comes over, and grabs the ball and runs away. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, what? He's like, you could have grabbed it. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you could have grabbed it, and you would have taken it home. It was a good souvenir. And I was like, no, can I have that ball back?
Did you get it back?
No, I know. They gave me like a one of the ones they used for the game, but I wanted one that was actually, involved with the actual, the actual game. Maybe when I sell it on eBay, I'll say that it was. No, that's in my man cave. We'll be there forever. It was a moment where I was like, we went up to the Jimmy Carter box and sat up there, and it was just insane. Like, it was one of those pinch me moments, and then to have that reassurance, or like, the feeling that other people that I was friends with were also making it at the same time. It really kind of felt like I deserved to be there, and I'd fought my way to get there, and it was a moment that I'll always remember.
So, yeah, and one of your biggest roles after that was Code Black. How was it like being on something like that for a few years?
I mean, another terrific experience. You can go to school for as long as you want, or you can, take acting classes for as long as you want. But to sit across from an Oscar winner like Marcia Gay Harden and, watch her go to work and do her thing every day, and then have Rob Lowe come on the show, Golden Globe nominee. I'm not sure if he won. Did he win? I'm not sure. But watch him do his thing, get to be good friends, and it's a big network show. CBS, we shot it was a co-pro between ABC and CBS. So we shot it at Disney in Burbank there. So I'm on the Disney lot every day shooting the show and really getting to experience what that big network show feels like. And, just trying to keep up with everyone, keeping them above water. And I had a really fun character on that show. I love playing Mario Savetti. He was a lot of fun. I like playing characters that you see and you might think they're one way, and then you start to get to know them and they're a little bit different. So.
Big difference between that character and Shady Brady, huh?
Yeah, I mean, they have actually some similarities in some ways, but obviously very different paths that they ended up taking. Both I think came from the wrong side of the tracks. One of them ended up doing something with it. The other ones, we'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of Virgin River, we just said that it got picked up for season 3. Man, how exciting has this been for you, this ride?
It's just, you're lucky if you get to do more than one season on a show. There's so much content out there. I think there's something like over 500 TV series I think there's over 500, which is just mind boggling to think about. That just didn't happen. Years ago, decade ago, even you could name it's probably under 100 or so that were up on its feet shooting. And so with the amount of content, shows aren't going like they used to. Like used to be, if you got a show and you'd be on it, you'd at least see 3 years out of it. And if you did more than 3 years, oh my God, you'd you hit the jackpot. And so to be on a show that gets that's well received and ends up being I was blown away by it. But we were the number one show on Netflix. Not only just in the US and Canada, but also globally. We beat out The Crown and The Queen's Gambit and all these shows that were kind of dominating the number one chart. And so that was completely surprised. And, there's just so much content on Netflix. You can stream whatever you want. To be the number one, it was, pretty cool.
You mentioned all this content, and it's like every day there's a new streaming app coming out. So it's like you can be filming this, and then the next month you got another gig at another streaming platform.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? That is tricky nowadays because the way they're starting to get competitive, and I think more and more they're wanting to try and be like, no, this is our star,
Really?
Amazon, you can't have him. No, I haven't run into that problem yet, but I've and I'm not sure it's exclusive, but I've heard other people from other streaming services having, issues, bridging the gap between one and the other. And that's not new. I mean, that's something that network TV has been doing forever. If you're series regular on one show, unless you're, you're pretty much locked into that show. You might be able to convince them to let you do a guest star, but to go and do like a big arc on another show that's a competitor, like if you were on ABC and you wanted to go do like a Fox, something on Fox, chances are ABC is not going to be super happy about you doing that because they want, they want you to be theirs, and rightfully so. I mean, they pay us to do this. Yeah.
So I mentioned you played Dan Brady. I want to hear about your audition. Was this live or self-tape? And tell us about the day when you went for that.
This was a direct offer. It's
Wow.
nice. It's nice to kind of get to the point in my career where most of my work is coming as direct offers. The things I have to audition for are ones that are pretty lucky to even be seen for the audition, which is great. They're with their big movies or their big series, which I'm more than happy to audition for. But it's kind of like a badge of honor, I guess, to a spot where every actor kind of wants to get to, where you start having people just call you up and say, hey, this is, we like to have you for this, or, are you available for this? And so that was the situation with Virgin River. And I did some research and found the book series and saw how popular that was, and had a conversation with the showrunner and kind of had her take on where she saw Dan Brady going and what kind of character he was. And I love, I like playing darker characters, and coming off of Code Black, I thought, oh, well, this is a great kind of transition into something a little deeper, a little darker, a little shadier. So I jumped at it, and the fact that it was shooting in Vancouver also appealed to me.
How did you prepare for this kind of role? Like you said, you read the books and everything, but what else did you do to get ready for it?
You know what? This one, I do different things. I mean, one thing I've inherited, one thing I've kind of scooped up along the way is I tend to cater my workouts towards the characters that I'm doing. He's an ex-Marine, so I started doing a lot of the Marine workouts that they have in their handbook, and picked up boxing and I looked up a bunch of stuff on documentaries and whatnot on the Marines and what these guys, the transition back to normal life, because that's essentially what stage Dan is in. Brady's transitioning out of being a Marine and trying to find his footing in the real world, so to speak, and that's where he's having the issues. And so I watched a few things like that and did some reading, and I found it all very interesting. But the real homework, I guess, for me is taking a character and flushing him out, like figuring out like what would his day look like, and how does he pay rent, and what would he wake up and think about in the morning, and is he the kind of guy that like what did he have for breakfast, and like I really flush out like what this guy is and what Brady is, and make some concrete decisions about who he is, and then that kind of seeps its way into the role and how I portray him on screen.
So everybody, like I noticed when I was doing some research on you, they call you the bad boy for this role. Like, how does that make you feel? How does it make you feel? Because
I think it makes my wife feel good. I think my wife likes it. My mom probably doesn't like it. For me, I don't care what they call me. I think it's great. Playing, the bad boy or whatever, and then going. I do some Hallmark movies and too. I play the leading man, and it's squeaky clean, kind of stuff. And so the most important thing for me is that I mix it up and that I'm not just kind of doing the one thing all the time. And that's what's fun about acting is, and I say to you, coming back to that, like, when my mom was like, well, maybe you should get a degree and then go pursue acting, like you could be like a lawyer or a doctor or like a cop. And I'm like, now I go home and I say, Mom, look, I'm all three, like, no, she didn't say a druggy, ex-Marine guy, but it's one of those things that it's really fun to step into someone else's shoes and live their life even for a little bit.
Did you find any challenges playing the character?
Yeah, I guess one of the main challenges with this one is to make sure that he doesn't come across as just super shady and one dimensional and kind of the bad guy. To give him some sense of humanity and make him feel like he's a living, breathing guy. He just made some bad mistakes along the way. And Meryl Streep has this awesome quote. She said that you should never give any character you play less respect than you give your own life. And I think you do that and you take a character like Dan Brady, you got to give him the respect. So you give him this respect that you give your own life. And then now that he's got your respect, regardless of what he does, you're going to make decisions based out of that respect, based going, okay, well, he's making this decision, but it's not just because he wants to be bad. He's making it because he wants to be a part of something. You know, Jack's rejected him from his circle, and now so he's going to this drug lord who's wanting him to become a part of their circle, and he's only ever known life as a squad, life as being a Marine in the Marine Corps, and what that is a tight knit unit. You know. And so that code and that all of that is built into what his framework of who he was growing up. And so does he do this because he's just looking to make quick buck? Well, maybe. I'm sure he's got to live, but also he's doing it because this is what he knows. This is what he was trained to do, and this is part of his moral fabric.
Have they given you an idea when you're going to go film season 3 now that it got picked up?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll be. I think it'll be fairly quick. And I've already heard a little storyline stuff, which I can't talk about contractually with you, but it's really fun and really interesting stuff. Then Brady's going to get to do some stuff we haven't seen him do, and show sides of him we haven't seen yet, which is going to be fun.
I'm sure the fans are looking forward to it. Like I said, I heard about this right before we jumped online, and
right, yeah, it's fortuitous timing.
Fans were going crazy about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone's super excited. If leading up to this, it was just nonstop. Is there season 3? Is there season 3? Like, what's going on? What's going on? And we all felt good about it. So I'm happy that we're doing it.
Any other projects that you've done that are coming out?
So I have a development of a feature that me and a fellow actor of mine are writing currently. We're about halfway through it right now, and I have one other thing that I'm starting up in the new year that publicly hasn't been, the press release hasn't come out yet, so I can't tell you what it is until they release it. But it's exciting in a different kind of role for me as well. Yeah, this project that we're writing with my buddy Evan Williams, who we met on a project over a decade ago and just been the best friends since. We're working on this thing that's takes place actually just north of Boston. Like the whole northeast kind of section of land back in the 1880s when the lumber business kind of dominated, and the idea was you'd cut these logs down and then you had to get them to the mill, right, which is never really where you cut the logs down. So there's this whole profession, and it was known as the seamen for sure. Like, if you're on a boat doing lobsters or doing crab, that's pretty tough. You go to war, which was, no one's going to look down on you for that. That's tough. But doing this job, like what they do is they go up to these lumber camps, spend all winter cutting down these massive, massive white pine trees, then load them up on these sleighs, have bulls drag the massive, huge multi-ton logs out onto a lake, wait until the lake unfroze and the logs then melted into the water. And then when that happens, the rapids would take them downstream and they would ride these logs on top of these logs downstream, make sure that they didn't get jammed up. And whenever they got jammed up, they'd use dynamite, walk across these logs on water with dynamite and blow them up. And then that would allow the other logs in behind it to come downstream. And the stream would lead to the mill, which would be at the base of wherever the stream was. And that was their job. Like, they do this for 9 months out of the year. And so they were like, as far as outdoorsmen goes, and like, we're writing it in the kind of the way like Gangs in New York, style of violence and danger, with like kind of the Revenant's feel of like remote battle with nature and the elements. And it's going to be pretty cool. I think no one's really seen this. No one's really done this story before. And I think just the cinematic element of the rapids and these massive logs and these guys who essentially become this team of log drivers is going to be really cool.
Are you trying to make it a series or a film?
I'm going to make it a film. Films sometimes, if they're too long, end up working themselves into a mini series or a TV series. But I see this more as a film with a beginning, middle, and end. I mean, that's the way we're writing it right now. And it kind of feels like an epic film, which is going to be fun to make, and it would certainly is certainly going to be something that I'll be in. I would love to direct it, but because I haven't gotten my feet wet with just even doing a short film, I'll probably let someone else direct it, and I'll just produce, write, and then be a part of it. I'll act in it. So. That's exciting for me. And it's just different. It's one of the things during this whole quarantine and isolation. It was one of the things I could do where it felt like I was furthering my career and building upon the tools that I had as far as knowing how to tell a story.
So, lastly, Ben, how can the listeners find you on social media?
Oh yeah, it's my last name, Hollingsworth, and then the letter B, which kind of stands for my first name. So it's just Hollingsworth B, and that's my handle for Instagram and Twitter, and then my Facebook page is just Ben Hollingsworth. And so they're pretty easy to track me down. It's a mix of behind the scenes footage from stuff and some stuff with my kids, of course, because they're just such a big part of my world. Yeah.
Ben, this was fun. Thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it anytime.
That's a wrap. That's a wrap, everybody. That's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to the Man Cave Chronicles podcast.
I finally get my man cave.
You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at the MCC Podcast and our website, themccpodcast.com. Until next time.